My first guest tonight says, well, not much. Congressman Spencer Bachus is the ranking Republican on the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, welcome. Great to see you, sir.
Thank you, Jerry. Glad to be with you.
All right. Well, you are the ranking member on the Financial Services Committee, but you don't support the bill. You don't support what will soon be law. Did you get anything in that bill that you liked?
Yeah, Jerry, we did. In fact, they adopted a Republican provision to set up a Financial Stability Oversight Board or Council, which will monitor systemic risk. And we know that there can be risk that travels along the system. Risk in one part of the market can cause disruptions in others. Yes, we like that. We wish that they had approached this not from a too big to fail standpoint, which is what they did by saying if there's a failure, the taxpayers will pay. We had a much better idea, and that's that they would go through the bankruptcy process.
And of course that didn't happen, and a lot of people disagree with that, as you do. I want to share with our viewers tonight something that you wrote in an editorial. You say the Obama Dodd-Frank bill is the financial services equivalent of Obamacare. It makes taxpayer-funded bailouts permanent. You say this too big to fail idea is now institutionalized. How so?
Well, it allows the FDIC to borrow 90% of the assets of a failing company. Now, they can loan money to a failing company. They can buy the assets of a failing company. They can guarantee their obligations. So while the President today said, and Chairman Frank, Chairman Dodd says, we're not going to bail out failing firms, you're going to bail out their creditors and their counterparties, which is exactly what happened with AIG. And who's going to bail them out, Jerry? It's going to be the taxpayers. And, you know, there should not be a too big to fail. There should not be a too small to save. Now, Chairman Frank and the President have said, look, these companies are too big to let them fail. Let me say this. That's almost blackmail to tell the American people we're too big a company. We're too systemically important. You can't let us fail. You've got to bail us out.
And yet there are people out there today saying that you need some kind of reform, and the Republicans just standing in the way of that. I want you to listen to this statement from Harry Reid today.
You either believe that we need to strengthen the oversight of Wall Street or you don't. You either believe that we need to strengthen protections for consumers or you don't. Our choice today is between learning from the mistakes of the past and dangerously letting them happen all over again.
Congressman, are the Republicans just, crying, standing in the way of some kind of reform here unnecessarily?
No, Jerry, I agree with what the President said and what Harry Reid said, in that they said we ought to learn the lessons of the past. And one of the lessons of the past is you don't address too big to fail companies by allowing them to get bigger. You don't allow Main Street companies, credit unions, and small banks and companies that had no part of this crisis. You put a bank tax on them. You put additional capital requirements on industrial companies that had nothing to do with this failure. If we learned anything, we'd require those who are too big to fail to have sufficient capital and not to leverage beyond their ability to meet their bets if those bets fail.
Congressman,
so, while I agree with the premise we need reform, we didn't get that. And let me say why I said Obamacare. In Obamacare, we started out with a proposal we all agreed on, that health care insurance and health care costs are escalating, and we need to get costs under control. What we got was a government-managed program to deliver health care. And what this is a government-managed program to deliver financial services.
You were talking about companies that are too big to fail, right? And saying that essentially this bill institutionalizes making sure they don't fail. A company that was too big to fail, Goldman Sachs, just getting slapped on the wrist, a $550 million fine. The SEC says it's the biggest in their history. Was this enough for Goldman Sachs? Should they have had a bigger fine? Should they have faced stronger government action, given what happened there?
Well, there were laws on the books that made what they did illegal, and what the SEC is doing is fining them for breaking the law that existed. And that's what I don't think the public understood, and I think that the Democrats are selling them a bill of goods. The President talked about credit cards and he talked about subprime loans in his speech. What he failed to indicate is that the Federal Reserve and the regulators have already stopped 90% of those practices, and everyone was in agreement to stop those others that were harmful. What we didn't agree on is letting government bureaucrats, at the expense of taxpayers, add to the bureaucracy up here and let government bureaucrats micromanage business. This is a giant incursion on the private markets, on the economy. This is not about addressing over-leveraging.
Well, there are going to be a lot of new rules,
in.
a lot of new regulations written. I think it's going to take a lot of time. We're going to have to watch out for those lobbyists on Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you for your time today. I know it's been very, very busy.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
Coming up.